Hey friends, it's Peggy Hall here, and I am going to unmask the CDC deception about masks. The reason why this is so important, and this is my most important video following my California state of emergency, is invalid and unlawful. Why this video about the CDC mask guidance is so important is because this is the very guideline that is suffocating our population. This is the guideline that is suffocating our way of life. This is the guideline that every state board of health and every local board of health is following. These are the guidelines from the CDC that businesses are following, that schools are going to be following, and we do not have to stand for this. I am going to show you right now how corrupt and fraudulent this information is. These CDC individuals must think that you're ignorant. They must think that you are not going to dig deeper. Either that, or they are ignorant, they are incompetent, or they are intentionally deceiving you with the information. So let's do this. I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to go to the agency here, the CDC. All right. And there are many videos that go deeper about the CDC roots and ties and all of that. I want to go right to the source, and I'm going to click on learn more about this situation. And then I'm going to go to how to protect yourself. I'm going to go to the mask area, and now they're calling them cloth face covers. Please do not give into the language. They are changing the language so that it doesn't sound so nefarious. Because when we have, or nefarious, when we use the word mask, to me it's like very menacing, all right? Like bank robbers have masks, and other people that are doing ill deeds are covering their facial features so that there's no identity, there's no self-identity. This impedes social interaction. You know all of the reasons why masks are so harmful, but I want to show you something that is just going to be mind blowing. Now, this is from the CDC. And here we have the US Surgeon General is doing a video on how to make a mask.
Here's how you can make your own face covering in a few easy steps with items you can find around the house, like an old scarf.
Like an old scarf. All right, let's set aside that we know these masks are unhygienic. And for people who want to argue the idea that healthcare workers are wearing masks and they're doing fine, they're not doing fine. There are plenty of scientific studies that show the health harms for healthcare workers wearing these masks. These are professional masks that are fitted, or they are cloth masks that are disposed of. They are put on in a hygienic manner in a sterile environment. We're not talking about an old scarf. But let's look at this. So someone wants to take care of themselves. They want to protect themselves. They go to the CDC because their state board of health told them to, because their governor recommended that they do that, because their neighbor said so, because the media said so, because the local board of health said so. Maybe the board of supervisors are giving these guidelines, and the links go back to the CDC. Anytime you find these links to the CDC, you need to dig deeper. So let's dig deeper. You have this video, and then you have, recent studies. Let's see, how many are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, well, look at this. Of course we should wear a mask made out of an old scarf, because look at this, looks really impressive. Well, first of all, there's no link. So it requires that you dig deeper. Now I'm going to unshare the screen, but get this snapshot in your mind. All these impressive studies. Well, I'm going to go find an old scarf and make a mask because the Surgeon General told me so. Even though the Surgeon General told me in the beginning not to wear a mask because it didn't work. Only sick people should wear a mask. But here's what I want to show you. They think that you're ignorant. They think that you are going to look at that list of studies and say, looks good to me. That looks impressive. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a doctor. I'll leave it to the experts. And if the CDC told me to wear a mask out of an old scarf, that's what I'm going to do. Let's set aside all of the health hazards, all right? I just want to talk about the science or the lack of science. This is what the health orders are based on. This is what millions of people are self-suffocating themselves for. Let's take a look at the science from the CDC. There were 7 studies, and what I did is, I'm going to share my screen again, and I grabbed these studies. And let me see if I can share my screen here. Here we have it. All right, thanks, friends. What I've got, I went to all of those studies, and first of all, there were no links from the CDC, as you saw. So I had to look at all these studies. I Googled them, and I found them. So here's the first one, and this is it, transmission, Now, I read through the pages very carefully, and I plucked out the most important information. And from this first resource they give us, which is not even about masks, it's about the spread of the transmission of the virus. Not one of these studies mentions wearing a mask or how a mask helps prevent the transmission. And certainly not about healthy or asymptomatic people wearing a mask. Asymptomatic means you're not coughing or sneezing. My next video is going to be about blowing the cover off the asymptomatic fraudulent guidelines or recommendations or orders. But let's stick with this. Just about, if he's telling us to wear a mask and he gives us all of this data, let's see what the data says, shall we? Well, number 1 says, research is needed to determine whether such patients, okay, 4 patients is hardly a reputable study. But nonetheless, we still need more research to determine whether these patients can be treated with appropriate guidance. It had nothing to do with masks. Let's look at number 2, shall we? Number 2 was about the viral load in the respiratory specimens. Now, I have these links, and you can click through if you want them. I can put them at thehealthyamerican.org. I did the research here, and here's what they said. It was in the New England Journal of Medicine, a reputable journal. You're like, wow, if it's in the New England Journal of Medicine, that means I must wear a mask, even though I'm healthy and I'm not sneezing or coughing, even though it's going to suffocate me and drop my oxygen levels low and cause brain damage. I'm still going to wear a mask because it's the unselfish thing to do. Well, let's take a look. They say it needs to be determined. Gee, I would not call that conclusive evidence. That's not conclusive evidence. It's very weak evidence. Now let's look at number 3. All right, maybe this is about a mask. Maybe this will tell me that I should make a mask out of an old scarf. Let's see. Oh, more studies are needed. Oh, let me keep looking. I want to see the information about wearing a mask is out of an old scarf is going to keep me healthy. So let's look at number 4. The presumed asymptomatic carrier transmission. Oh, that's what they're telling us. If we're not coughing or sneezing, apparently just breathing is going to kill people. Let's find the evidence. Okay, let's look at this was a long-term care facility. Let's look at the conclusion. And it says that, oh, okay, proactive steps to identify and exclude potentially infected staff and visitors. These measures are needed. It does not speak about wearing a mask at all. In fact, let's see the next one. Actually, number 4, did I skip number 4? It says this mechanism to transmit this virus requires further study. It requires further study. Gee, that's not very compelling evidence for me to put my health at risk by wearing a mask that actually is going to trap germs near my nose and mouth, and I'm going to track those germs to other places, thereby increasing a risk for infection. I don't think that's very compelling. Let's look at number 6, shall we? And this was about pre-symptomatic transmission. That means before you're coughing and sneezing. That's why healthy people need to wear a mask, because you could be asymptomatic. Let's see what they came up with. Oh my goodness. pre-symptomatic or asymptomatic transmission modes have not been definitively documented. Am I reading that correctly, friends? Would you help me if I'm not reading this correctly? Because to me, it says that there's no conclusive evidence. In fact, it says these modes have not been definitively documented. All right, and this is what the CDC is telling me is their evidence. Let's look at number 7. All right, and this is about undocumented infection facilitates the rapid dissemination. Well, let's see. Another level of uncertainty to our estimations. Oh, so it's uncertain. And, the time needed to eliminate it is unclear. Unclear, let's see, unclear. Oh, by the way, the people that wrote this one said they got consulting fees from Merck and BNI. Okay. Well, Merck is a pharmaceutical company, and I need to see what BNI is. If you guys know what it is, let me know. But this is the word that caught my eye. This person got consulting fees. And even with the consulting fees, they had enough integrity to state that there is even another level of uncertainty. You can read all of it. I will have the data. These are many pages, and it's very difficult to dig through. And but I did the digging. And so what I want to review, it has not been definitively documented. It requires further study. More studies are needed. It still needs to be determined. Let's see. Research is needed to determine. Okay, this is the exact information that the CDC has on its website to substantiate wearing a mask, or they're calling them face coverings or cloth face coverings. Let's go back to that, shall we? This is going to be for the CDC, and the CDC, I think you're seeing with me right here, this is recommendation regarding the use of cloth face coverings. Am I reading this correctly, you guys? This is the page where I should get the data, that the overwhelming, compelling data, the persuasive data that requires millions of healthy individuals to, let's see, the CDC recommends wearing cloth face coverings in public settings. This is what your public health orders are coming from. So you can look at this video, you can make it out of a scarf, and then do you know your health officers have not even done the research I've done? If they had done the research here, they would have seen that it needs further study. It is inconclusive. There is no compelling evidence. Friends, you would be doing a great service to yourself, your friends, your family, your community, our country, the world, by blowing this deception wide open, by unmasking the CDC mask deception. I know there are so many other issues with the CDC, changing the numbers, their ties to these research companies that probably wrote these articles. I know all of that. But today, this video is very targeted to simply tear apart and unmask and blow apart this flimsy, weak, inconclusive evidence upon which every order in California, and likely in your state, and likely in your county, is based upon. Here's what I would like you to do. Go to your state Department of Health and look at their guidelines regarding masks or face coverings. And when they say this comes from the CDC guidelines, you just have your evidence that there are no conclusive studies that support this. Then you can go to your local Board of Health. You can go to your local school district. You can go to your county Board of Education. You can go to your state Board of Education. You can go to any licensing agency. You can go to your Board of Supervisors. You can go to your local government. You can go to your HOA association. They wanted us to wear masks walking to the swimming pool. I don't think so. and I showed them this information, aside from the fact that the recommendations are just guidelines. Friends, I'm going to wrap up here for now. I want to thank you for your support, for your emails, for your subscribing. If you would hit that subscribe button over here, and then you click on the bell so that you are notified of the subscriptions. And many of you asked me to get on BitChute, which I am. Many of you asked me where you can send a donation. You can do that at thehealthyamerican.org. And I thank you for your support. You have been writing letters. You have been emailing me. I have thousands of emails. I'm getting volunteers to help me to sort through this information, all of the links that you're sending me. I have an additional video coming out about the OSHA regulations, which is, if you saw my previous video, I could not recall what that agency, what the acronym stood for, because I was so flustered coming out of our Board of Supervisors meeting, but I'm going to do an entire video on that. It troubles me deeply that we are even having this conversation, that we have to defend for our right, our God-given right to breathe. God breathed breath into man and he became a living soul. And I am not going to obstruct my breath for anyone at any time unless it's my choosing. That is my information for you today. I thank you so much for sharing the video. I want to hear from you, everybody, and I'm going to be signing off for now. And as always, I am here to help you and to help me and to help our fellow individuals live life fully and freely. I'll see you soon.